Welcome to the AgBiz Digital Marketing Planner, Part 2, Get Discovered. Just a reminder that we recommend that participants complete one part of this at a time. The AgBiz DMP is broken up into 5 parts. Upon the completion of each part, the participant will submit a form that is directly sent to the UVM Extension Specialist team. The specialist will review the form and provide feedback. Upon completion of the 5 parts of the plan, the UVM team will provide the participant with a document that details the digital marketing plan for the farm business. The parts for developing a digital marketing plan for your farm are as followed. There's a design phase where you define what is our purpose. There's a get discovered phase, which we're going to talk about right now, which is how are people going to find out about our presence online. There's a relationship building phase where you define how are we going to get people to engage with our content. The commerce phase is how are we going to make sales and increase them. And the community growth phase is about how do we build community loyalty and advocacy. The main goal of this part of the Get Discovered phase is to define how people are going to find out about your online presence, your websites, your social media, etc. You have your purpose that you established in part 1, and now and you have your messaging as well. Now we're going to talk about what are you going to do in order to get noticed. I like to look at digital marketing as an ecosystem, and within this ecosystem, we're going to talk about several points here. During this phase, in the Get Discovered phase, we're going to talk about your website, search engine optimization, and social networks. In the upcoming phases, we're going to talk about the areas of advertising, email marketing, e-commerce, and analytics. So let's get started with discussing your website. When you've decided that you want a website, it's important to understand what comes along with this. I know that several people in this audience may already have a website, or they're considering building a website. Or something's already in motion that you already have, but I wanted to share this information with you so we get a little understanding of the basics. When we speak about a domain, that's basically the www or myfarm.com kind of scenario. It's very, very important that when you're considering your domain, that it's very relevant and it's very easy to remember. A lot of people get involved quite a bit with trying to include everything into a domain name, and the problem with that, like a long domain name, is basically it's really hard, it's very easy to forget. So try to remember to choose a domain that's very easy to remember, so that someone can just go to their computer or their phone and just type it in, and hopefully they'll find your farm. When we speak of a host is where your site basically lives. It is where all the files are taken care of by a service provider. We'll talk about a few hosts in the next slide, but basically that's just where all the files for your computer lives, and then your site is what everybody sees. It's what's on everybody's screens. My recommendations, there are many providers out there for domain names, registrations, for site hosting, but I do suggest to go with the big guys. With GoDaddy, I would suggest that it's good for buying domains. It's great for hosting. It's actually, they have their own website builders now, so it can be considered an all-in-one experience. Their customer service is, while their customer service is great, sometimes it may take a while to get attended to. One thing to remember, and I'm going to reiterate this, is that a lot of you're gonna eventually end up having to speak with someone that's hosting your domain or hosting your website. So really consider how their customer service is. That being said, SiteGround, I believe, is also a really, really great site to host your website, and their customer service, I feel, is impeccable. I've had a lot of experience with them over the years, and I like both GoDaddy and I like SiteGround, but I feel that SiteGround has a little bit better customer service. Another thing to consider, which I feel is very important for farmers, is an all-in-one package. These all-in-one packages usually come with a commerce component. And this is really important right now for farmers who want to be able to sell products on their own websites. And the two biggest and best that I believe in are Shopify and BigCommerce. Both of these platforms have excellent customer service and they're very easy to use. So now we're going to speak a little bit more about your website. What I'm going to go through are several questions that you need to ask yourself and your team as you're planning for creating your website. What's really important is to have an understanding of what is the main reason why you're having this website. Do you want to just simply post information about your business, kind of like an online virtual billboard, if you will? Or do you want it to create leads and potential customers for you? Do you want current and prospective customers to be able to contact you? And also a very, very major component is, do you want to have an online store? Do you want to have an e-commerce component on your website? When you answer those questions, you'll get a better understanding of what you want to do, and then you have to really address from the beginning is what is your budget for the website. And while you're looking at websites and the different options that are out there, make sure that you understand all of the monthly and yearly costs that are involved with keeping your site live and well-maintained. And when I say well-maintained, also remember that there is a security component. So make sure that whoever you go with, you are addressing security. During the planning phase, it's also important to understand who's going to create and manage your website. This is super important because a lot of people just underestimate the amount of time that's necessary in not only building the website, but also managing and maintaining the website. Websites need daily maintenance. They need weekly maintenance. They need monthly and yearly maintenance. So it's really important that you have someone that's designated that will be able to address any issues that may come up with the website. Like I said before, you really look into whoever you're going to choose, make sure that they have excellent customer service, because like I said, you're going to have some questions. More questions to ask will be, will I be able to manage inventory if I'm using an e-commerce component? Is inventory management automated? This is a pretty intense part of the planning process. It's really important I find that this issue is very important for farmers in Vermont as your inventories change from your farmers markets to your farm stands at home on the farm. So it's really important if you need to have your inventory managed and automated, make sure that this platform is going to be able to address that. I'm going to reiterate this again. Who do you go to if something goes wrong with your website? Are you going to have someone who's capable of addressing problems, or are you going to have to go directly to someone's customer service? Just make sure that you know who to go to when problems emerge. You need to ask yourself as well if you need to have a CSA component for your website. In doing so, make sure that you understand the costs that are involved with using a certain software that promotes CSA components. This is very, very important. And this has also been a hurdle for many farmers in Vermont due to the prohibitive costs of using a CSA software. So if you decide that you really, really need it, make sure that you speak with a representative from the software company. Also, if you need any recommendations, please contact me if you are looking for a software component that will manage CSA. And also, throughout all this planning process, keep track of understanding how much time it's going to take for you to set up your website and to maintain it. Time, not only like, you don't only need to consider who's going to do it, but how much time it's going to take to maintain it. I find just for a basic website to get it up and going from scratch, it really does involve about 40 total hours just to get it going. And when you're in the process of, you know, day to day having your website live, it could take a couple hours a day when you're first starting, just to make sure that you're understanding how it's moving forward. And like I've reiterated several times, and this is very important, that's the reason why I'm bringing it up, is understand when is it time to bring in someone with technical expertise. There are many people out there. It's great to identify who they are and when it's necessary for them to come in and support you so that you keep your site healthy and you keep it live. Now we're going to move into some marketing activities that are involved with promoting and getting discovered, promoting your website and getting discovered online. One thing I find that's very unique about farmers is they have the ability to influence traffic to their website with online marketing activities that are coordinated with offline activities. So we're just going to speak a little bit about some online activities and then go over some offline activities that I'm sure most of you are very familiar with. Search engine optimization, or also known as SEO, is a complicated topic that may require assistance from someone else with more experience. I will also be available should you ever need me to explain a little bit more about this topic. You can always reach out to me by email. But the basic goal for SEO is to make sure that it's easier for people to find your services if they happen to be searching for online for your business or a service that your business offers. A few just details of search engine optimization is a website is always, a website needs to be indexed by the major search engines. I'll use Google for an example. They have like well over 90% of worldwide online search traffic. So what you need to do is make sure that Google's search engine is indexing your website. When I say index, it means it's going through each of your pages and gathering the important information from your website and then making it searchable. So when people are looking for something like maple products, Vermont maple products, and your company will pop up for that. Make sure as you're creating content on your website that your content is original, informative, engaging, and non-derogatory. Search engines will make sure that they'll highlight the websites that have original content. It's engaging, it's informative, and it's also non-derogatory. It's not poorly mannered. When you have your website running and you're creating hyperlinks to other content online, make sure whatever you're linking to is valid and reputable. Google search engines will index your site, and if they notice that you're linking to sites of ill repute or bad sites or just bad links in general, it will actually penalize your site and its rankings and its search rankings. So make sure that everything that you link to is a valid link with a good reputation, the website has a good reputation. And another important thing to make sure that you're making the most out of search engine optimization is to make sure that you're updating the content on your website. Don't just leave it there. Not only does it look bad if people notice that you haven't updated your site in months or even years, but search engines will actually penalize your site for not having fresh content on it. The more fresh content that you have on your site, the more that you're going to climb up in the search engine results rankings. Another component that a lot of you know about and have heard about, maybe you're a fan of it, maybe you're not a fan, is social media. It is very important to talk with your team and understand what your feelings are on participating in social media. It does take some time, so you have to be very honest with yourselves and your team and who's going to maintain it and what you're going to do online with social media. Within social media, consistency is important with all messaging. Make sure that you're posting on social media the content that you developed along in part one when you were talking about messaging. Make sure that you're conveying what your real purpose is. Social media can be used to reach new audiences, and it also can reach out to old audiences. So I do believe it's a good tactic to use. Farmers can always bridge the gap between business and its prospective clients by letting people know where their food comes from. It's a great mechanism to keep your audiences informed about what's going on with your farm, with your products. And the main rule is to make sure that all of your communications have a clear purpose and a clear call to action. If you remember in part one, we talked about calls to action. Calls to action are statements that are intended to influence your audience to do something. So now we'll review some basics of the social networks. We'll go over Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest. Those are the major ones that I like to discuss with farmers. There are many more out there that you can get involved in, but I think that these are, just to narrow everything down, I'd like to go over a few of these. And then we'll really talk about, is it worth it? When we talk about it, is it worth it? It means, do you really want to get involved with something like this? Do you want to spend some time on this? Because you're going to need to spend some time, like I mentioned. Facebook, I'm pretty sure that everybody out there knows about Facebook. It's a great tool that can be used for making announcements, telling people that you've created a new blog post on your website, and creating stories about your farm, what's going on. I notice a lot of farms across the nation and in Vermont are starting to use Facebook stories to let people know what's going on the farm this morning, take them out and see the cows, something like that. It's a pretty cool tool to get into. Also a thing to consider on Facebook, when you have a Facebook business page, there is a messaging feature that a lot of companies are using as an excellent way to provide customer service. People can reach out to you through the messaging component, ask you any questions that they may have, and you have the opportunity to respond to them in a professional manner. Facebook does also offer the opportunity to network with other farms, communities, service providers, and agricultural industry entities. And we'll talk about this when I address the advertising as a whole, but I do believe that Facebook, along with Instagram, are great portals to dabble with advertising, paid advertising for your farm business. Google's networks tend to be a little bit overwhelming for starters, but we'll go into that and we'll address that in the upcoming phases. Over the years, Instagram has gained quite a bit of popularity with farmers, especially just because it really offers that opportunity to visually engage your audience with pictures and videos from the farm. I know that several farms here in Vermont are doing very well on Instagram, and it's been impressive, and they can directly link sales to their activity on Instagram. So it's something to really consider. While you're making posts, make sure that every post is visually engaging and it's representative of the work that the farm is doing. A major focus should be on the farm's story and tell the stories behind your efforts. This is really important because it's bridging that gap between your potential clients and what's going on at the farm. Like I mentioned before, Instagram provides the opportunity to advertise, so it's something to consider. And jumping into hashtags, you may not have heard of them before, but it's something to look into as you can integrate with trends, that other online trends or trends that are happening on Instagram. Now, Facebook and Instagram are what I normally recommend for someone getting started. And also just remember, don't overwhelm yourself by jumping into all 5 of these social networks that I'm talking about right now. If you just want to dabble, I would suggest that Facebook and Instagram are something that are very easy to jump into and get to know about. But moving forward, LinkedIn is growing in popularity, especially with the professional crowd. This is something, if you're considering, promoting your business and your company, and integrating with other businesses and companies, I think it's a great tool. It's only going to get more important. I find that it's highly utilized for professional aspects. Integrating with other organizations is something that you can do with LinkedIn. Twitter, I'm sure many people have heard of Twitter. These are only my suggestions, remember, but I think it's something that could be used to engage the younger crowd, and also professionals working within the agricultural field, especially service providers or people working for agencies. You could find that there's a lot of communication going back and forth on Twitter. This platform could specialize in directly communicating with potential and current clients. Potentially you could be announcing sales or new events, just happenings that are going on at the farm. I feel that the biggest role of this platform could be in interacting with local, regional, and national government and service provider agencies, which are highly prominent on this platform. Pinterest is something that many of you may have heard of, and many of you may not have heard of, but I bring it up because it's pretty interesting in the fact that there's a high presence of craft makers and do-it-yourself crowd. And this could be interesting for a farm, or to integrate with, because preliminary research has shown that there are plenty of topics on gardening and farming. And this is a way that you can establish some form of authority. You know about gardening, you know about farming. You could be integrating with people that are going to this platform to look for something on that topic. A lot of the audience on Pinterest is purposely using the platform because they're looking for information on a topic. So it could be really interesting for you to use this channel to deliver messaging to those people that are looking for information. I find that I don't have too much experience with this, but I do know that some people are very active and successful on Pinterest. So I've discussed quite a bit on social media in a very short amount of time, but as you can imagine, it can be overwhelming. So my biggest point of advice is make sure that you're keeping it simple in the beginning, so you get a real understanding of everything. Make sure that the admins of these sites, of these platforms, are familiar with everything, so they know what to do. Pay special attention to details, because basically one minute error can lead to a mountain of trouble. What I like to say is, once something is published online, it's pretty much there for good. And even if you're able to delete your content, your messaging that you posted, audiences can't unsee something. So it's really important to make sure that you're careful with your messaging. For managing multiple platforms, I feel that Hootsuite is just top notch for managing several social media accounts. You can actually use their free version to manage up to 3 social media accounts on their platform. Buffer is another platform that's good to check out. So we talked about a lot of online activities now, but we also want to talk about how you can integrate your offline activities. Many of you have a lot of experience with this and promoting your farm and farmers markets or other events, but just wanted to go over a few points here. All printed materials must have your email address, your website domain, and the web addresses and names of your social media accounts. Make sure that you're always providing people the opportunity to visit you online while you're promoting your farm with printed materials. It's also, within printed materials, it's an excellent way to announce sales and discounts on your website. You can integrate coupon codes and a variety of different other options to promote your website through printed materials. And another thing that's really important that we're going to talk about later is building your contact list for email marketing. It's very important while as you're going out to farmers markets or other events to gather people's contact information, their email address information, because as I'll address later, email marketing is one of the most influential ways to increase sales on your website. Another thing to consider through all of these topics that I've brought up is your customer journey path. I brought this up a little bit in part one, but what I want you to do is take a look at your current customer base and visually create a map of how they originally became your customer. Write out how they found you, what made them purchase from you. Look into how long they've been a customer, and then also figure out what's the lifetime value of this customer to your business. I understand that this has been quite a bit of information. This might be new to some people, this might be old to others, but feel free to move on to the form on this page and submit it, and I will get back to you with some constructive feedback within the next 2 to 3 days after you submit the form. Thank you very much and have a great day.